In Chapter 2, we learned that there are three groups of verbs in Spanish: the AR, ER, and IR verbs. In Chapter 2, we looked at the conjugations of AR verbs. Here in Chapter 3, we're going to look at the conjugations of both ER and IR verbs. First, let's take a look at the verb aprender, which means to learn, which is something you'll be doing a lot of as well. So we included it here. Now, here we see that aprender is an ER verb because it ends in ER. So ER is our infinitive ending, and everything that comes before is the stem. So our stem here is aprend. Just like with AR verb conjugations, our first step in conjugating this verb is taking this stem and writing it with each pronoun. So we have yo aprend, tu aprend, etc. Now conjugating verbs is easy as long as you stick with this pattern. It might be time consuming, but at first, if you don't stick with this whole pattern, it's easy to get lost. Okay. Now, just like with AR verbs, our first step is to add an O to the yo form. So here we have yo aprendo, I learn. Next, with the AR verbs, what we did is we took an A down from our infinitive ending and added it to each verb. Since this is an ER verb, we're instead going to add an E to each stem. Follows a similar pattern. After we add our E to each stem, we add the same letters as we did to the AR verbs. So for tu, you add simply an S. Tu aprendes, you learn. For the él, ella, usted form, we leave it as it is. Él aprende, ella aprende, usted aprende. He learns, she learns, you learn. Aprende stays exactly as it is. Nosotros, we have to add the long one, M-O-S. Aprendemos. We learn. And finally, ellos, ellas, ustedes, here we need an N. Ellos aprenden, ellas aprenden, ustedes aprenden. They learn, you all learn. So you see, the conjugations for ER verbs, very, very similar to the conjugations for AR verbs, except instead of adding an A, we add an E for each ending. Next, let's take a look at an IR verb. We're going to look at the verb vivir, which means to live. So our first step, this is an IR verb, our first step is to break the verb into its stem and its infinitive ending. Again, IR verb, its infinitive ending is IR, so the stem is VIV. So, the first step in conjugating the verb is what? What do we need to do first?
Write down the stem.
Alright.
VIV.
Good, muy bien. So for each pronoun, we're going to write down the stem here, VIV. Now, for the yo form, what do you think we need to add?
We add an O.
Muy bien. For every yo form that we've seen so far, you take the stem and add an O. Now, you might think that we're going to take an I. Since it's an IR verb, that would make sense. You'd think we're going to take an I and add that to each stem, right? Well, unfortunately, we add an I only to the nosotros form. So this I only goes to nosotros. The rest of the forms take an E. It breaks our pattern a little bit, but that's just something you'll have to learn. Then, the pattern follows exactly as it had in the past. So for the tu form, what do we add?
An S.
Muy bien. So the tu form is tú vives, you live. Now, for the él, ella, usted form, do we add anything?
No.
Muy
Leave it
bien.
as it is.
This stays just as it is. Él vive, ella vive, usted vive. Exactly the same as it is. Now, nosotros, what is our ending for nosotros?
That's the long form.
That's right.
M-O-S.
M-O-S. So this one here is the odd one. This is I-M-O-S. the rest of the forms conjugate exactly as if it were an ER verb. Only the nosotros form has that I come down. And finally, ellos, ellas, ustedes, what do we add there?
An N.
Muy bien. We add an N there. Viven. Ellos viven, ellas viven, ustedes viven. They live, you all live. So you notice, ER and IR verbs are very, very similar, except for the nosotros form, where that I in the IR verbs comes down. And that's it.
That's easy.
It's easy.